Fueled by C4, Cellucor, and Extend. Use the code Clydesdale to get 20% off at checkout at c4energy.com. On Clydesdale Media, where we bring you the widest array of content here on our YouTube channel. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Hit that notifier so you're first to know when new episodes are available. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Clydesdale Media Podcast. My name is Scott Switzer. I'm the Clydesdale. We've got with us the Legends 40 to 44-year-old female champion and my co-host, Jamie Latimer. And we are so honored and privileged to have with us the men's 35 to 39-year-old champ from the Legends Championship, Michael Paas. Michael, how you doing?
Great. Doing really good. It's great to be on the show, and it's a lot of pressure. It's live. I can't screw up. Everyone will see it.
I've screwed up so many times.
Yeah, we're professionals here.
I mess up enough so everybody else feels relaxed about it.
Okay, good deal.
So that's my role in this whole thing.
Yeah.
So I was doing some research on you, and I'm going to start in a really weird place.
Okay. All right.
I heard you say on a podcast that you played football in high school. You never played varsity, yet you walked on to a college football team.
Yeah. That is accurate. Yep.
How does a man who never played varsity have the balls to immediately walk on to a college football team?
Baseball was kind of the sport that I did varsity for. I did baseball for like the all-star teams, the travel teams, and all that stuff. And that was my main like varsity sport in high school. And by the time I got done, I just was not excited to spend a whole off season like hitting off tees and playing catch, and like I just kind of burnt out on it. And I had played, the whole story is I played football in high school, but it was just on a club team. It wasn't associated with the high school I went to. But they never got big enough, which they have since, but they never got big enough to field a varsity team. So it sounds funny, but I played basically, I did my freshman year with the high school, and then I played 3 years of JV. And it was just, when I played for the high school, I didn't really enjoy it. I didn't really have friends on the team. I barely got to play. Like I was a receiver, and we rotated the receivers every 3 plays, and the receiver would run the play in. But then when they were going to do a pass play, they would put the other guy in basically. So it was just so much. I mean, it's such a commitment and so much work, and to not have fun when you're doing it is just, it's not worth it, So I played for this other team, and I got to play all the time, and it was awesome. So, and so that's how I ended up continuing with football, I guess. So, yeah.
So our friend of the show, Kenneth the Lab, says he prefers cojones or testicular fortitude as opposed to my statement. Either way, nice. You had all of that.
Sure.
To be able to do that.
It was pretty funny because even it was D3. Like I played at Hope College in Holland, Michigan, and D3. So there's no scholarships, but there's still like recruiting, and coaches know the players coming in. But when I, like walking in there, no one knew who I was. And actually my buddy who I was going to be rooming with, who was not a football player, went with me, because you got to go in early, a few weeks early, and he wanted to move in early. So he came and like shook all the coaches' hands and everything. And they didn't know the difference, because they didn't know me and they didn't know him. So it was interesting.
Well, and in CrossFit, we always say you prepare for the unknown. You changed positions 3 times in college.
Did. Yep.
So what did that prepare you for life? Because you started as a running back, went to fullback, and ended up as a defensive player when you moved to varsity.
Yeah. Basically, I just worked really hard, I guess, and they wanted to reward that. was like my big thing, is that I would just always work really hard. And uh, they like when you go to D3, like when you went to Hope, there was 8 to 10 running backs, in my class. Everyone wants to be a running back, and were the big positions. So, I was way down on the depth chart, and fullback, like I was 50 pounds underweight to play fullback on varsity. I had no future there. So they were just trying to find a way to get me on the field. So yeah, I just being flexible, and even to piggyback on that, like going into my senior year, the starter was, he was in the class below me, so I'm going into my senior year, and it's not even looking like I'm going to start, but I just kept working hard and training as if I could start at any time. And then what happened was in the second game of the season, I forget what his injury was, but he got hurt. He was done for the year. So now I'm the starter. And so, I was ready for it, because I had been preparing as if any time I could go into that role, even though, I was never going to replace him on the depth chart otherwise, without that incident. So, yeah, just being ready at all times. So
also in this podcast, you talked about in Division 3, you didn't have like a springs football practice thing. So you were looking for something to do, and you ended up doing track and field, and you had conceptions of what it might end up being. Didn't turn out that way. Walk us through that story a little bit, because there's a commonality I have with you once you get into that story.
Okay, man, you do good research. This is good. Yeah. So like you said, I did 4 years of football, and then I wanted to do something in the spring, and I was trying to decide basically between lacrosse and track, and I'd never done either of them. And basically what made me try track was there's just I knew that my degree was in exercise science, and I didn't know what exactly I was going to do with that, but I knew I was going to do something in sports or sports related. And I trained for football, and like I kind of knew what that training looked like. And lacrosse is different, but it's more similar to football than track. Like track is individual sport, um, you know, very specific events you're training for, and I just knew it would look totally different. And I had zero idea how to train for track, and so it was partially just out of curiosity. Like I don't know what this is going to be like, so I want to learn about this new sport. And I just really enjoyed that it was an individual sport and a team sport at the same time, which ends up, it's a lot what CrossFit, I've done mostly in CrossFit, I've done team stuff, and it's individual stuff within the context of a team. Because you like, it's really obvious if you blow it or if you do something good. Like it's a little different than a team sport, because there's so many more factors in a team sport. You're reacting to the other teams, and it's a lot more straightforward in CrossFit. So it really it prepared me really well to transition into CrossFit eventually.
Well, the story I heard is you thought you were going to be a sprinter.
Oh yeah, yes, yeah. I mean,
that didn't work out so much for you.
Yeah, I was not as fast as it's college track, so there are people that have been doing track for a ton of years. And my thing in football was I was really good at changing directions, but straight line, like track speed, was a lot different. I wasn't bad, but I was not as good as them. I was never gonna put the times up that they were. And so the rest of the story is you take this spring break trip to Florida, and then get some good weather and get a bunch of training in, and you do a track meet. You do a meet on the way down, a meet on the way back. And there was one practice where the throwers were out doing javelin, and I just kind of stuck around and just threw a little bit with them, and I ended up being okay at it. And so then on the meet on the way back, I did it in the meet, and turns out I was pretty good at it. So it was yeah, it was fun, and that's a fun event. It's just feels pretty, I don't know, there's just something primal about just throwing a spear as far as you can, so it was neat. So I kept doing the running stuff just because I liked running, but it wasn't like I wasn't going to help the team in a meet with running, but I just liked running 400s, and 200s. And so I did it for fun, but my main focus shift to javelin at that point.
What's funny about that is I was a thrower in high school. That was kind of what I deemed as my off season. And I would pretty much just throw discus and lay out on the hill and get some sun, because in Pennsylvania, it was the first time you actually got some sun for a while. And we were on an away meet, and one of our javelin throwers did high jump and got hurt.
Ooh, okay.
And they're like, hey, we need someone to throw. And I'm like, I've never thrown a javelin in my life. So they give me like a tutorial on the side. I go out and I end up winning the javelin in that meet.
That's amazing.
And then I ended up throwing javelin the rest of my senior year.
Yeah. You have to at that point.
The hardest part for me, though, go ahead.
I was going to say, isn't it weird how some people, and I don't know, it's just like some people really pick that event up really fast, and other people that I would have like guys that were quarterbacks on the football team, like just assume they'd be able to do it. And then they go out, and you've seen it, I'm sure, where they just throw a helicopter. It's just interesting how some people just pick it up really, really quickly, and some people just do not. So that's amazing to go out and just win the first meet.
I heard you say that you played a lot of baseball, and I was a pitcher.
Okay.
That's the only thing I can think that like lent to that. But when I won it, I was probably 10 feet from the throw line, because I couldn't line up the run throw, because I hadn't done it ever. So that's my whole senior year was working on getting the run up consistent enough to where I threw near the line to at least get like that 10 feet.
That's cool.
Yeah. So I heard that, and it made me relate to you. And and then I ended up loving it, and I wish I would have found it like my freshman year.
Yeah. I feel the same way. Yeah. Do you remember any of your distances on your throws? Like, how far were you throwing? I guess high school is feet, and all my stuff in my brain is meters.
Yeah, I don't remember. I don't remember. It was over. It was over 200 feet.
Okay, I think anything over 200 is pretty decent. So,
like 210, maybe. It's kind of sticking in my head.
Okay, all right.
But yeah, I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
It's been a long time for me, Michael. I'm much older than you.
Yeah. Nice. Well, I think one advantage that I have is that was an event that it does not exist in Michigan high school track and field. Like, they don't throw the javelin, and I was competing in the MIAA conference, which is a lot of people, not all the schools are in Michigan, but a lot of them are in Michigan. So I think I didn't come up against too many people that had been doing it for, beyond college. Most of them started doing it in college. So that was at least somewhat of an advantage that I had, as opposed to, lots of people that were running the 400 had been doing it for a bunch of years. So,
yeah. As Kenneth said, when I did it was back when phones had wires.
Nice.
And I know that javelin got taken away from a lot of schools. I had a friend that got a javelin in his ass cheek. So it is a very dangerous. He was walking away, not paying attention, and a girl launched a javelin and hit square left cheek.
Jeez. That's not good.
Yeah, so
I'm thinking I never saw anything. I saw some close calls, but I never saw anyone really something happen that was too bad. There was one where one of the other throwers was just having a weird day where they were just taking off to the right, and even more, and so he would just try and throw it harder, and it would go even more to the right. Kind of like golf is kind of the same thing if you're off the tee box. Yeah. And he had one that he just launched, and it went all the way and actually stuck in the track right at someone's feet. So that was the closest I've ever seen it, but thankfully I've never seen anyone actually get hit.
Yeah, I've seen close calls with a shot put. That's really crazy. But yeah,
Let me ask you this: when you threw, would you yell when you threw?
Probably not.
Probably not.
If we saw someone out there, like we would yell heads up or whatever.
No. I just mean like,
Oh,
grunt,
Like
grunt when you
Oh,
like
threw.
the
yeah, there was a
primal,
grunt.
like the primal scream, right?
Yeah.
There was a grunt.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh yeah.
I made myself. I waited. I had like an unofficial threshold of 50 meters, and I wasn't going to yell because I didn't want to be a weenie out there yelling and not throwing very far. And so like once I crossed 50 meters, then I went to a park by myself to practice. I didn't want to try it for the first time in front of a bunch of people, so I went to this park and then threw and yelled when I threw, and then I started yelling the rest of my short career.
I think it's just natural for me. When I threw discus, I grunted.
Oh,
Tennis,
that's true.
I grunted.
That's true. You're probably used to it from the other throws.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it just naturally came. But that's funny that you practiced your scream.
That is funny.
I mean, it's definitely. I'm pretty introverted, so I'm not a big like when I lift or work out or any like I don't really have any other times when I yell due to exertion. So I wanted to try it out first.
So I want to dive now into a little bit, since we've done all the fun stuff, I'm going to dive into a little bit of CrossFit. So are you still the head strength and conditioning coach for 8th Day?
I am. Yep. I just got done. I coached the 9 o'clock class, and then I got a quick workout in, and then I coached 2 more classes and basically came right upstairs and sat down at the computer. So, yep.
So when I hear head strength and conditioning coach, I think college athletics. I've never really heard that title at a CrossFit gym. Can you explain what that job is?
Well, first of all, the owner, Joe Cebulski, he said we could make up our own titles. So that is, so it's not, it's not anything official, but wanted something to call myself to put on like my email signature and stuff. So that's what I put on there. But it's really what I think of myself as. It's just I work with adults instead of teams of students. So like I lead classes, just standard CrossFit style classes. We call them perform. And then I also write. I'm in charge of writing all the programming for the week that the classes will go through. But I still think of myself as a strength conditioning professional. I'm just wrapping up my NSCA like recertification stuff is up at the end of this year, so I'm cramming all that in. I try to continually watch videos, read articles, and progress my knowledge in the field as best I can. So I don't just think of myself specifically as a CrossFit coach. I guess I try and think of the broader field because I work with in any CrossFit class, you get a wide range of people. Some are just trying to be healthy. Some people do want to compete in the sport of CrossFit. Some people have injuries, and there's just such a wide spectrum of people you encounter. So I think it's important to be ready for all of those people.
So Kenneth says, I let a grunt out today after doing burpees at the gym. I was embarrassed.
Nice. Well, hopefully the music was loud enough that no one heard it.
Yeah. So I've had the honor and privilege of working out at 8th Day.
Oh, you have?
My job used to take me all over the upper Midwest to different states. We had a conference in Grand Rapids. I was telling Jamie last night, I PR'd my DT at 8th Day.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So
awesome.
It is one of the most unique gyms I've ever visited in my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
So it is an old auto, like gas station mechanic.
Yeah. Tire shop. Yeah. Tire shop. Yeah. And we started before me, they started with just the main space upstairs, which I'm assuming that's probably where you train. How long ago was that?
It was probably 2015.
Okay, so it looks probably very different even from when you were here. But we started just in the main upstairs space, and then kind of it's a giant building, and just kind of over time we kind of crept into each of the other spaces to the point where now we have 4 basically fully outfitted workouts training spaces, which is super nice because again we do have people that do a lot of extra stuff and train to compete, and they're able to have their own space and they're not interfering with class at all, and they're able to have some of the specialized equipment that we might not use in class. They'll have ropes and GHDs and air runners and a few of all those things, but then we're never like interfering with each other, which is super nice. And we have perform classes, which is our CrossFit style classes, and we have burn classes, which are boot camp style classes, and those can run at the same time. And then there's still, space available for people to do their own thing, which is super nice.
I think if I remember right, when I was there was one room, and it might be what your burn classes are, but it was like CrossFit without a barbell for people who were intimidated by all the barbell stuff, and you had like a separate room and classroom for them to do their thing. There was like a lifting area that used to look like an old bay where you'd pull your car in to get it worked on. I was fascinated by it, but the crazy thing for me is when 20 people are doing DT on that upstairs, the floor's rocking.
Yeah. And if you're underneath that room, it is loud. It's elephant stampeding. But I mean, the nice thing is we don't share the building with other, like we have one tenant in one corner. But like we don't have to worry. We can be as loud as we want basically. And our neighbor up the hill one notch that we share walls with is the intersection concert venue. So, they're never going to complain about, some barbells dropping, so we have a lot of freedom, because I know a lot of gyms do have to worry about that if they're, in a retail location and have neighbors, and, a lot of that stuff, matters. So we're very fortunate. And even that room, if you're talking about we call it all of our spaces kind of have names, ironically, except for the main CrossFit space is just called the upper gym, but we have the garage, and we have Narnia, and we have the body shop, and they all kind of have names. And the garage is where burn class is, and we have those 2 huge bay doors on each side, which is amazing in the summer because we'll just pop those doors open and they're almost training outside, so it's super nice.
Yeah, it was quite the experience. I really enjoyed it. And everybody was so friendly there. The coaching was amazing. And so if you're ever in Grand Rapids, Michigan, definitely drop in. It is definitely worth a visit.
Yeah, come check it out.
So you primarily for your career have been a team athlete.
Yep.
And you have a special teammate.
A special teammate. Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. That you're really close to?
Fairly, yeah. I know her pretty well.
So did you become private teammates before being public teammates, or vice versa?
Yeah. So, so my wife has always been on the team, other than, we have 2 kids. So, there's some pauses in there for that, of course. But she was a track athlete in college. I went to Hope, and she went to Calvin, they're the big rivals. And she was like an All-American, 400 runner. So she was really good. And I knew she would be good. I started doing CrossFit, and she did not think she would be any good. And so I had to, over time, convince her to try it out. And then, at that time we had a ladies only class. And so she would only do the ladies only class, which is, definitely like lower intensity, I would say, from the other classes. But she would do really well. And eventually, finally, she started going to all the classes, and she probably, not sure the timeline, but she basically only did it for a handful of months. And then this would be 2013. I had to talk her into doing the open because she's very resistant to doing all this. And so she did the open and she did well. And so we had these regionals, we were sending a team to regionals, and they released the workouts. And one of the workouts had you had to be able to do a ring muscle up, or two people I forget what it was, but there was if you couldn't do a ring muscle up, you're done. Like, you don't get to do the other workouts. And so she was able to figure out how to do a ring muscle up, and so she was then put on the regional team, and then allowed us to continue in the competition that year. And then she's obviously she developed into a really good athlete over time. And what she does is way more impressive than anything I do, because she's a full-time PA, and she's had 2 kids, and she does a full day of work. She comes in she probably starts work at 7 or earlier, and then she'll do a full day of work and come in at 5. And then after all that, then she's trying to get her workout in, and so for her to be able to do that, and like, she's still getting better. Like, she's still getting stronger. She's still getting better. And so that's way more impressive than me, who I'm here, I don't have to travel here. I can fit my workouts in at convenient times during the day between classes or whatever. And it's a lot easier for me to sync my nutrition up. And, she'll go long stretches because she'll be in surgery or whatever, and she'll go long stretches where she doesn't even get to eat, so she'll skip lunch and then, have a Cliff Bar on her way in, and then she does her training. So, what she does is way more impressive than anything I do, for sure.
Well, the one podcast I listened to, you were both on, and what's impressive to me is her fields of study in what she does was first neuroscience, and then now it is orthopedics, correct?
Yeah, orthopedic trauma. Yep. Yeah.
So no slouch on what she's doing every day, either brain surgery or fixing people's bones and joints and all of that.
Yeah.
So you guys made the games in 2021.
Yep.
What was that like, making the games for the first time?
Man, it was weird. Like, because so we were at Granite Games, and it came down to the last event. Like, I've never had like a moment like that in my athletic career before, that I can think of, that even comes close to that, where like literally everything's on the line, and we had to execute, and we're walking on the field, and the music's blaring, and like, that's it. You either do it or you don't, and so, like, we executed, we won that event. And so it was also cool because we won the event, and so we knew right away, when we crossed the line, we're going to the games. There was not like hanging out and waiting for them to tabulate scores and all that. So it was a super cool moment. And then, and actually going to the games was, that was incredible, for sure. And also, like, a big part of it is we all just really enjoy spending time with each other. Like, we all get along really well. We had, like, at the time, Ryan was, another full-time coach here. So we spent, we were in it together. Like, and so it was really cool to be able to share the experience, amongst us. That was a big part of it. But it was amazing. You get a lot of stuff too.
Yeah.
I think I think the other teammates were probably more excited about the stuff than I was, but the stuff was a cool part.
And you go back in 2022 You end up finishing 10th, so a top 10 finish at the games.
Yeah.
Everything's on the rise, and then last year you hit the wall where you just miss getting to the games out of the East. So the highs of making it to the games to just missing out, what was that experience like?
Man, it was it was really tough. Again, this is a moment that I've never had that I can think of, like coming that close to something in my athletic career and then like just missing it. Cause I'm the type of person that, good or bad, any event or CrossFit competition, like I'm always thinking about the stuff that I messed up. I'm thinking about what I could have done better. But this time it was literally any one of those things, and we're going to the CrossFit Games. And same thing with, I'm sure it's the same with my teammates. Any of us, any of the things that, and I don't even think we had, like, overall we had a decent comp, but it's just so close. And it was the big dramatic thing too, where we're all on the floor and we weren't even in the final heat. So we did the last event, and then we had to sit there along the railing and watch, the last heat go, and we're timing things out, and the whole time trying to figure out where people are finishing and was that enough. And it was pretty, I mean, a letdown is an understatement, but honestly, like, I felt more bad because we had new teammates. It was still Heather and I, but we had Dylan and Rachel. So they've been, at the gym for a while, and they're finally getting their shot, and I felt worse for them because I've had my shot. I've been to the games twice, so I felt worse for them than I did for myself. And I know both of them had little moments that they wish they could have done things a little differently or a little better, so I know that they're crushed. So I think that was probably more of my focus, was feeling bad for them. But someone's got to be 11th, so I guess it was our turn. And I mean, the other aspect to it was, both years that we made it, there were teams from semifinals that finished above us. We finished 4th both years. And then there were teams above us that tested positive for drugs. And so we ended up on the podium, but after the competition was done, and that was when they were taking 5 from each one. So now we have 10, so there's twice as many opportunities for that to happen, so there was this weird limbo of several weeks, and CrossFit isn't great about communicating timelines and things like that. So, like, we literally don't know. And like, I even messaged him, was like, hey, can you at least tell us if the drug testing is done, so we can, because we had to train for the games. We had to keep training for the games because we had to be ready in case any of those 10 teams test positive, and then we're going to the games. So there's just like this weird several weeks where we just kept training. And so that was also like a pretty tough aspect to it. And there was never like a for sure we're done, as eventually it just seemed less and less likely gradually over time, so that was a pretty tough aspect to it as well.
So that weekend was the first time Jamie worked with us. She is a big follower of her fellow Michigan people, and she was following you guys the whole weekend. So I want to give her an opportunity to ask some questions.
Yeah, I mean, I remember like watching you guys. I would try to make it out there for each one of your heats, watching you guys, and I was super hopeful. Like, all weekend, I'm like, I mean, you started really good. Like, day one was a great day for you. And I was like, and then the last day I remember watching you guys, and I'm like you said, you weren't even in that final heat. So I'm like watching you guys compete that event. And I'm like, I don't know if they did enough. And then just trying to like capture just reactions on the floor and stuff. And it is heartbreaking. But I'd like to think that being that close gives those two just that little bit more fire, assuming you guys are going to be those four again this year. And at least team still has the opportunity to go to the games. Like, if you were going to transfer into masters, and go alone, like you kind of lose that shot. But if you stay teams, at least the teams get to go still to the games. So hopefully that gives them that little bit of fire to store up any little hiccups that they noticed.
Yeah. And honestly, they are two people that don't need a lot of, like, they have so much motivation already. Like, they are two of the hardest working people that I know. So yeah, they're extremely motivated. And I think that experience is going to help, maybe even not so much motivation, but just confidence wise going there and being on the big stage. Because Dylan has done Granite Games as an individual. He's made semifinals as an individual, but this was like Rachel's first really big thing,
Mm-hmm.
and she did great. But I think, like, having experienced it and having that, I think she'll go in with a lot more confidence. Yeah. And also, Heather's done for the year, or she's done competing. So again, I guess this is the big announcement, is that she's gonna be done. So gonna focus on it again. Like, what she's done has been really hard. And when she's coming in after work and training, that's family time that she's missing out on, because I'm leaving here, I'm getting the kids, I'm getting to spend time with them, I do the morning stuff with them, so she's missing out on that stuff. And the kids are getting to the age, our oldest is in first grade, and so he's like, he's doing wrestling now and doing more activities and things, and just wants to experience more of that with them. So we'll have a team, but it's gonna be without Heather. So yeah,
Makes
it'll
sense.
look a little
But
different.
man, it's got to be tough on you.
Yeah, it's gonna be tougher on her, honestly. Like, because Legends, she came down and watched.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And brought the kids, and that was awesome. I really enjoyed having, because when we would compete together, like, we didn't bring kids, or if we did, they were with my parents or her parents, or there's other people that were in charge of them, just because it's, especially for her, it's like she's just not able to just separate herself from them if they're around.
Mm-hmm.
So we really hadn't done that before. And then at the, I did the Masters Fitness Championship. They came to that, and then they came to Arizona, and both those were really awesome. I don't remember where I was going with that, though. But
you said it'd be tougher on her.
Oh yeah, she was. I don't think she thought it was going to be tough at first, and then she got there, and I had tried to convince her to do both of those competitions, and at different points she was going to do them, and then she's just, again, like, going back to, it's the same kind of thing. Like, she doesn't think she's going to do that good, or has these hesitations about competing by herself. And I get part of it. Like the fun for her is competing on a team and with other people. So I get, like, maybe she wouldn't enjoy it as much, but I was really pushing for her, because I think, and I actually had her test one of the workouts for me, and she would have crushed it. Like, her score would have crushed it. I had her test the awful triple dumbbell. Was it Hell's Bells? Lunges, and like, she tested that, and she, like, did the whole thing unbroken. And so she would have done, really well. But anyway, so, like, she got there, and then I think she was having a little bit of missing out once she got there, and she'll have a ton of feelings of missing out, if we make it to semifinals, if we were to make it to the games, like, that will definitely be tough for her.
Mm-hmm.
But it's something we talk. I mean, every year is like its own year for us, and we just do one year, and then after the year we reassess, and it's something that we talked about for a lot. We talked about multiple times and came to that conclusion.
The kids
So.
are only young for so long. I understand the family time and being important, especially the kids' sports stuff.
Yep. Yep.
So there's this sale being done by CrossFit that if you want, you can compete in 2 different divisions this year through the games. So theoretically, you could compete on a team and compete in masters. Has that crossed your mind? I see you nodding. Has that crossed your mind? Do you think it's possible?
That was the big question that I've been waiting for that rule book to come out to see what they would say. There was a thing that I told Dylan and Rachel, because they really wanted to do a team again. They were all in, and I told them, like, I would like to do it. I want to get you guys there, but I also want to do masters. I want to do both tracks as long as the season format would allow me to do it. Just having some success and having, the field masters never really looked that interesting to me in the previous format, whereas 3 online competitions, only 10 go to the games. My chances of going are, maybe, but probably not that great with 10. But with 40 now, like I feel like I have a chance at making it. So, and then when the rule book came out, the first thing I did was look for that stipulation or what they would say about it, and I found it. So I mean, I would love to go to 2 CrossFit Games. So I know that sounds crazy, but I'd like just to do it, and I think I would be able to do it well, or be smart about it. And the team definitely has priority for sure. Team will definitely have priority. I wouldn't have been able to do it if so the semifinals this year we're going to be the last week of semifinals, which last year we were the first week of semifinals. So I feel like that gives me enough space to do the Masters online semifinals and still be able to get a bunch of good team training in leading into the team semifinals. So that's the goal right now. So
the biggest question for this, and you're the first person we've had on that is contemplating this, doing both.
okay.
So I'm fascinated by this. Is how does your body, you're a master's athlete, right? How does your body hold up? Is your team training enough to get you through the first couple phases of masters where you can focus on that? And then when it's time to turn to the masters, you're ready?
I think so. I mean, I think I will be able to do it in an intelligent way that will make it work. So Heather's replacement is going to be, her name's Danielle Dunlap, and she doesn't live in Michigan, so she's not going to be here all the time. She's obviously will come for the phases that she has to, and she'll come early for semifinals. The open, we're treating that as 3 weeks of team training. We'll do the open workouts obviously, but it won't be like tapering for the open workouts. It'll just be part of our week that we do. So a lot of it, we're not going to be able to do full team sessions anyway, so I'll be able to do some like synchro work and things like that with Dylan and Rachel, and Heather will be able to step in, I'm sure, and we can get some like worm practice in, with Heather being the 4th person, just to help us keep fresh with that. The answer to your question is I don't know, but my going in with the priority of team, and team being the one, I mean, they haven't released the schedule yet officially, but from what I hear, the Masters Championship will be after the main games, whatever you want to call it, main games. But so I don't really, it'll basically be, I'm going to put everything into the team games if we were to make it, and then whatever's left, we'll go towards the Masters. That'll be like a fun a fun bonus, I guess. So that's kind of my mindset going into it, because when there's 3 other people depending on you, like I can't prioritize myself, so team will be the priority, and whatever's left will go towards the Masters thing. But I'm pretty excited for the challenge of doing it and trying to do it well.
So you did MFC this year, you did Legends. Was this a test run to see kind of where you sat?
A little bit, and a little bit was just, I just wanted to do stuff, not making the games, and we did, several years where we basically only did the game season, and we didn't do many of the other competitions. We didn't do many local things. And so when we didn't make it this year, it's like, all right, I can't go however many months that is without competing. Like, it's just it's an important part for me of just motivation. So part of it was like frustration of not making the games and wanting to go do something still. And yeah, part of it was like, I don't know how I match up. I did Legends last year. That was the first time I'd done anything individual in a long time. And I went in with I had no expectations. Let's just see what happens. And it ended up going pretty well. So going into Masters Fitness Championship this year was a different mindset. I was going in to win, it's just the mindset I had. I didn't win, but I also felt like I maximized my performance, like with those workouts. Travis was just better with those workouts. I felt really good about how I executed and everything. So, yeah. And then, yeah, especially with them announcing that Legends was going to be the games next year. I was really curious to go do that again, just with a year under my belt now, and a little bit more confidence. I've always thought of myself as a team athlete, and there's things that I do really well in a team format, and I never thought that I always told myself or other people that asked that I wouldn't be that good of an individual athlete, just because there's a lot of things that are different, like even just, there's not as many long grinders. There's a lot more like short work rest things. And so I just never thought of myself as a good individual athlete. So going in with some confidence now, it was neat just to have a different mindset, I guess, going in more of an attacking mindset rather than just, let's see what happens.
Were you going to Legends? I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jamie.
Do you think you are more of a shorter, like high power output athlete? Is that what you feel about yourself?
I think so. I can do like sprinty stuff where you just shut your brain off and just do it really fast. Which is not all team workouts are like that, but there's like more of that type of thing in a team format than an individual.
Interesting. Because I know you were the closest to finishing the rope climb wall ball workout at Legends last year.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was one of those, it wasn't long, but it was one of the longer workouts, and definitely for me, that showed your overall fitness level. You surprised me in that workout.
Yeah. That's kind of exactly what I'm talking about, where those longer workouts, I didn't necessarily expect to, so that workout specifically, I'm like, rope climbs is probably one of my better things, relative to other people. So, and I know being good at rope climbs coming off of, 90 GHDs are going to beat people up on the rope climbs. Like, if you're not good at rope climbs, if you have bad technique, that's really going to play into, I don't remember, it's like 12 rope climbs or whatever, a significant amount. So, so that was my big advantage, I think, in that workout. And then being able to hang on to that lead through the wall balls. I don't think I pulled away from anyone in the wall balls, but I was able to at least maintain that lead. So yeah, I think part of it was just like a strategy and how the movements fell, I guess.
I'm curious if you feel like you would have done better at MFC had they not last minute changed a couple of those workouts.
Yes, for sure.
You do, yeah, a little more
Like,
higher execution and
I was pretty excited for, well, that one didn't matter, I guess. The double dumbbell overhead lunge, because like that's something that I practice specifically. Like I'll just put that in my warm up sometimes, just so I'm comfortable with it. But I guess that wouldn't have helped because I won. That was one that I won anyway.
You won that one anyway. Yeah.
Did I win that one? I think I won that one. But
I think you did too. That last round of ring muscle ups, like you really.
That was fun. That was because I knew in practice I did it all unbroken.
Ew.
And so it was just going to come down to like, I don't know what people are going to do on the bike, because the bike with calorie bike, big separator, and I train with like really good people. Like Dylan is like, he's incredible on the machines, and Ryan was incredible on the machines. So like my point of reference, I think, is somewhat skewed, so like I wasn't crushing it on the bike, but I was doing it enough. I wasn't the first one off I wasn't the first one out. I'm trying to think who was next to me. I can't think of his name. Dex was next to me. So he was off the bike before me in that last round. But then I saw him like doubled over, like taking a long chalk break as I was coming up. I was like, all I got to do is if I jump up before him, I'm going to get him, because there's only so much you can do on the lunges on that workout. It wasn't enough of a, like, one kettlebell overhead is nothing, so like if I jump up before him, I got him. So that was a pretty neat moment. I'm trying to remember what the other things were. Like one of my lesser scores was that first event, which was supposed to be air runners? That was the one with the heavy sandbag.
Oh yeah. I don't know, I'm not sure exactly what it was supposed to be, but yeah, they changed that to the landscaping duty. Yeah,
but I mean, it doesn't matter because that's what the workouts were, and it doesn't matter what it was before. That's just how it goes. Travis executed better than me, and I don't know. I try not to think about it in terms of that, because that's the whole point of CrossFit is like you get the stuff and you do the stuff, and whatever it is, you try and do it better than the guy next to you,
For sure. I just like always like look at the, just judging the programming amongst competitions in general. Like, what did you prefer, MSC this year or Legends this year, programming wise? What do you think was more well-rounded?
I think they both had things that were. I think my biggest negative from Legends was just the lack of equipment variety. I mean, there just wasn't a ton of variety. We were repeating movement patterns tons, and I'm sure you guys have discussed it on here. I'm guessing, but there was, I don't know, we did at least 3 versions of cleans, maybe more. So we just kept like repeating movement patterns because they had barbells and they had dumbbells and jump ropes and rope climb ropes. Right. So there's no like plyo boxes. There's no like handstand push-up plexiglass, no wall balls. In saying that, I think with what they had there, like I felt like every workout felt different, even though you're doing cleans multiple times, like every workout felt totally different than the other. So I think with, I don't know what the limitations were that they had or any of that, but I felt like they did like as good as they could have with what they had there. With MFC, I thought it was neat, like playing around with the heavy sandbags. That was like my letdown at semifinals was hanging onto that 200-pound sandbag. So that was kind of fun to kind of come back and do another workout with the heavy sandbag. man, I can't even remember some of the other workouts they had.
Block those right out.
So many workouts ago in my head.
The
I did
triple
like,
threat, I thought was awful. The
oh yeah,
long barbell,
the squats. Yeah, that was really tough. Yeah, and that was so like when I went to Legends last year, and it was my first thing. Like I didn't know who anyone was. You know, they were just all anonymous people to me. But I knew going into MFC, like Travis finished third at Legends, and I think he finished second in the qualifier. Like I think I won the qualifier for MFC, and he was second, I think. And so I knew he was going to be like one of my main competitors, and that was like, so it was just a little different that workout because we were pretty close to each other throughout. There was a couple times where he would get ahead, and then I would kind of come back, and so like that last set of overhead squats was just brutal. Just knowing that like if I put it down and he like, like who knows when he's going to put it down, and I can't really tell how tired he is. I can just see him on my peripheral. And so it's just like, that made that workout so tough. And, that's something that I haven't really experienced as much in competition before. Team stuff, there's so many other things to think about because like you got calls with your teammates and you're not really as focused on the other teams, or at least I haven't been, I guess. Then as an individual, like, I've, watching Rich Froning and Matt Frazier, like they are always looking around and seeing where everyone is, and they know where everyone is. So that piece, that was kind of like the first time in competition where I really was kind of paying attention that closely to where someone else was. And that made it hurt so bad. What did you think about comparing the two programmings?
I don't know. I thought MFC was really well-rounded. And like you said, just like a little bit less variability at Legends. But I do think they did a great job with what they had. I don't know if it was a getting equipment there or a budget thing or what this year, but like to have no machines and stuff like that was interesting to me. But I do think they did a great job with what they had, and I would totally agree. I think each workout had a different feel, so that's good.
Yeah, for sure. I enjoyed both comps. I did the survey that they sent out, and I typed out an email to them at Legends and kind of like told them some things. But I also at the end I was like, overall, this was a great comp, and I really liked the venue, and everything was organized and on time, and it had like a professional feel to it. So yeah, I thought they did a good job.
So I kind of want to wrap us up with this one big question.
Uh-oh.
If I told you going into Legends, you're not going to win an event, would you think you would win the competition?
Weirdly, it didn't surprise me, or it wouldn't have surprised me. I mean, my thing is always, I try to not have a thing, I guess, like I try really hard to be well-rounded and not think like put myself in a box of I'm really good at gymnastics, or I'm really good at lifting, or because you got to be able to do everything. So yeah, I think it speaks to the depth of the field, and it was all different people winning events too. It wasn't just like one person winning all the stuff and having one or two bad events. I don't think anyway. It seemed like it was pretty deep field.
To not win an event and then win by 51 points, pretty impressive.
Crazy.
And then then you look a little bit deeper and you're like, well, 6 top 5 finishes.
Yeah.
So you Medeiros your way to a victory.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah. And even that last workout, like I didn't have a big lead going in. I had 12 points on Elijah Muhammad, and you got the double score. And he got screwed kind of in the floor layout. Because I was all the way in the back, I was lane 10, so I was all the way in the back corner and I could see everyone. And he was all the way in the front corner. And so he could see no one. And so like that last workout, I didn't want to risk blowing up. And, my goal was not to win the event. It was to win the competition, so I was watching him. And then that second part, like he put the dumbbells down, I put the dumbbells down on the thrusters and, so that was one of the, I don't know. It was,
So you are you're the third person we've interviewed that has said that exact thing.
oh yeah. Okay.
The floor layout at the end.
Yeah. I don't know.
Is it right that the person in first place going in gets that advantage?
I think that they could have done it differently. I think they definitely could have done. I should have. If anyone's going to have the advantage, it should be me. But I don't think second place should be at the extreme. He was the most disadvantaged, other than
Agreed.
lane 1, who would be in last place in the heat or second to last in the heat. Like there's no reason to have that be the cutoff where now he is the most disadvantaged. Like I felt bad. I would have been, if I was in second, I would have been upset. Like and it's just arbitrary, right? Because they did the normal thing on paper where, I was 10, he was 11, third place was 9, and working out from there. And it just happened that when they put it on the floor, they did 1 to 10 here and then 11 to 20 here. And I think there's different ways they could have done it for sure.
Absolutely. I don't know why they weren't either, like Elijah would have been turned. So that whole opposite side would have been turned facing you. And then you both. Yeah. So either turn, or it should have went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the way up.
Exactly.
So like the last two. So either way, either turn the people to face. So like the two lanes are facing each other and both people would have been able to see the whole floor. But yeah, I thought that was weird too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was in your shoes though, so I didn't care. I was like, I'm back here watching.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. You were.
We talked to Tony Tursky yesterday. He said the same thing. He knew who he had to beat. He could see who he had to beat.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's true. Because you're talking about to all the people that won. So everyone. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's an interesting way to finish. And it's like, that was a chance for like a big showdown. It could have been, but instead we're, on opposite ends of the floor. And like, if you're a spectator, it's hard to even see what's going on, or you might not even know that he's the one that's in second place. I like to think that it wouldn't have mattered. But it's still like I wouldn't feel good about it if I was him,
Yeah.
So if I were to give my one criticism of Legends, it is they don't always take into consideration the spectator. I've preached on and on about the finish should always be away from the chaos. So when they were on that upper floor, sometimes they finished by the windows. You couldn't tell who was finishing, who was in the chalk bucket, who was still going. Like you just couldn't tell. And so the spectator doesn't know who's winning. That final event, if you have 1 and 2 side by side going at it for that adds something for the spectator. To have you on the opposite ends of the floor was ridiculous.
Yeah, I agree. And there was even, adding to that, there was the squat clean, handstand walk workout. I felt like I thought that was going to be either that one or the rope climb one, where if I was going to win one, it would have been one of those two. And I know Elijah Muhammad's super strong, right? He won the lifting maxes and I took second. And I'm assuming, he's a former games athlete. So I'm assuming he's trained handstands. I don't know him that well, but I'm just kind of assuming that. So I got towards the end and and they were only talking about me and him. And then I crossed the finish line and I thought I'd won the event. And then I looked and there was like someone else was already done, And so like, even as an athlete on the floor, because all you had to do is when you finish your last clean, you just took 1 or 2 steps onto your mat, there's no like run to the finish line, so I was like, did he get hurt or is he just taking a really long rest or like what, cause the announcer like didn't say anything about him the whole time. So not only did the spectators not know, but as an athlete on the floor, like he snuck in and beat me. And I don't know if it would have mattered or not, but you know, it's even I didn't know what was going on some of the times.
So biggest shock for me was Easy not winning the rope climb.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It was really, I think all three of us were really close, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I've seen the video of him like jumping most of the way up there.
I was
impressive.
there live when he broke the world record on that event in 2014.
That'd be like a regionals, right? It was regionals. Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
I've never seen anything like it in my life.
Yeah.
So that for him not to win that blew me away.
Yeah, especially in that event where there's very little wiggle room, you know, like the jump rope reps weren't super high, you know, so you just had to execute, and like having a really good rope climb was a big advantage in that workout.
Did you have to execute on that, Jamie? The jump rope?
Thankfully, no. I was a disaster on the heavy rope. I don't know what happened to my brain, but thankfully I like rope climbs are like my thing too. So I had enough of a lead. From that I could afford some hiccups on the jump rope.
Gotcha.
And the crossovers are easy for me. That went like, I think that's where a lot of people got tripped up.
Yeah. Yeah. I had, when I first picked up the heavy rope, I missed my first one, and that was it. I didn't miss anything else. And I still didn't, and I was fast at the rope climbs, and I still took third in that event. So there was no wiggle room. They were flying. So.
Oh, that sucks.
Yeah. That's how it goes. I didn't execute. So.
Well, Michael, that's been a blast catching up with you, hearing about how you're going to try to do both next year. I'm excited to follow that storyline through the season and see how it goes for you. Thank you so much for joining us. And we'll stay in touch and maybe have you back on midway through the season. See how that go for, what are we going to call it? Go for two games? Something like that.
I don't know what it's called, but yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me on. I appreciate what you guys are doing, covering the Masters athletes. And I told you this already, but I really appreciate, you know, there's obviously a lack of coverage, of attention and all that. And we don't have to get into that, but anyway, I appreciate what you guys are doing. So. Well,
we appreciate you guys for coming on. Appreciate the audience for joining in, and we'll catch everybody next time on the Clydesdale Media Podcast. Bye, guys.